Think of one thing from today that is already over: a conversation, a mistake, a person who is no longer in your life, a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. It ended, and yet some part of it is still in the room with you right now. That gap between when a thing actually ends and when your mind finally puts it down is what this video is about. Not grief in general, not letting go as a slogan you've heard 100 times and that never quite worked. Something narrower and more useful: the specific mechanics of why your mind keeps holding objects that your hands already released. 3 moments from 3 very different corners of Buddhist history all point at the same mechanism from different angles. A mother who could not accept that death applies to her family the way it applies to everyone else's. 2 monks on a muddy road where only one of them actually finished the walk. And 5 men sitting in a park near an ancient city being asked one question so carefully that it took the floor out from under all their assumptions about who they even are. I'm not going to tell you to let anything go tonight. That instruction has never once worked when someone said it to you, and it won't start working now. What I can do is show you in specific detail what your mind is doing when it keeps carrying something that already ended. Once you can actually see the mechanism, you get to decide what to do with it. That decision is yours, not mine. Let's start with the mother. Her name was Gautami. People called her Kisā-Gotamī, the thin Gautami, because of how slight her body was. She was born in Savatthi, into a family that had once been wealthy and had lost everything. When she married, her husband's household looked down on her for it. Everyone in that house treated her as beneath them, everyone except her husband. Then she had a son. The moment the boy could walk, could run, could reach for her with both arms, something shifted. The same people who had despised her now doted on the child, and through him, on her. For the first time, she belonged somewhere. She told herself something quietly in the part of the mind that keeps score. They hated me until I gave them something they wanted. So this is what people are. It's a small, bitter thought, and underneath it was something larger she hadn't noticed yet. She had staked her entire sense of safety on one small body that happened to be alive. The boy died suddenly. No clear cause, no warning. One day he was there, and then he wasn't. Kisā-Gotamī did not accept it. Not in the way we mean when we say someone is in denial for an afternoon. She picked up his body and started walking from door to door, asking a question that made no sense to anyone who heard it. Is there someone here who can cure my son? People looked at her with pity because they could see what she could not. There was no illness to treat. There was a dead child in her arms and a woman who had not yet let that fact reach her. This is the specific error worth naming because it is not unique to her. It is not she loved her son too much. Loving him was never the problem. The problem was a private, unexamined rule she had built without knowing it. This kind of loss happens to other families, not to mine. You don't need a dead child to recognize that rule. You've used a version of it. The diagnosis that surely won't be serious. The relationship that surely won't end the way the last 3 did. The job that surely won't disappear the way it did for everyone else in the department. Impermanence as a concept is easy to agree with in the abstract. As a rule that applies specifically to you, today, it is the thing almost nobody actually believes. An old man finally told her something useful, not a cure, a direction. Go to the Buddha, he said. He is staying near this city. If anyone can help you, it is him. She carried the body there and set it down in front of him and asked him to bring her son back. The Buddha did not correct her on the spot. He did not tell her that death is natural and she should accept it. The fastest way to make grief worse is to hand someone a true sentence before they can use it. Instead, he gave her something to do. I can help you, he said, but first bring me a mustard seed. It has to come from a house that has never known death. Any household would have mustard seeds. They were common in nearly every kitchen. So she agreed instantly, certain this would be easy. She went to the first house. Yes, they had a seed. No, she couldn't have it. The grandfather had died there the year before. The second house, seeds, yes. But the mother of the family had died only months earlier. The third, the fourth, the 10th. Every home had mustard seeds. Every home had also at some point buried someone. By the time evening came, She had walked most of the city. Not one house qualified. Here is what the Buddha actually built for her, and it's worth being precise about it because it's easy to miss the design. He did not argue her out of her grief with logic. He gave her an errand that could only produce one outcome and let the outcome teach her directly. Nobody had to tell her death is universal. She found that out with her own feet, at door after door, hearing it from strangers who had no reason to lie to her. That distinction matters for you too. Being told a hard truth and discovering it yourself land in completely different places in the mind. One is information, the other is evidence. She sat down near the edge of the city, still holding her son, and something in her settled that had nothing to do with being convinced. She said, to no one in particular, a single line, "This is not the rule of one family or one village. It is the rule of the whole world, with all its gods included. This, impermanence, is the one law that holds everywhere." She had not been told that sentence. She built it out of a day of doors. She went back to the Buddha without the seed and told him what she had found. He gave her a short teaching after that, a handful of lines that are still recited today. The image is simple. A person absorbed in gathering flowers, mind full of pleasure and plans, gets swept away by a flood the way a flood sweeps through a sleeping village, sudden and indifferent to how unfinished that person's plans were. After hearing it, something in her fully released, not the love for her son, which never left her, but the specific belief that his death was an exception to a rule everyone else lived under. She asked to be ordained. She was accepted, and she practiced for the rest of her life as a mother who had buried her only child and kept going anyway. Here is the practice for tonight, and it does not require a funeral to use. Pick one thing you have quietly filed as "this won't happen to me." A relationship you assume is permanent. A body you assume will keep working the way it does now. A job, a friendship, a streak of good luck. You don't have to do anything about it. Just name it specifically in your head. Not everything ends. That's too big to be useful. One specific thing. This particular thing is not exempt from the rule that applies to everyone else. That's the whole exercise. Not acceptance, not a plan. Just an accurate sentence, the kind Kisā-Gotamī had to walk an entire city to earn. 2 monks were walking together during the rainy season, somewhere in old Japan. Their names were Tanzan and Ekido. The road had turned to deep mud, the kind that pulls at your sandals with every step. At a bend in the road, they came across a young woman in a fine kimono, standing at the edge of a wide puddle, unable to cross without ruining it. Tanzan didn't slow down to think about it. "Come on," he said, and lifted her in his arms and carried her across to the dry side. Then he set her down and kept walking. Ekido said nothing, not then. They walked the rest of that day in silence, through the afternoon, into the evening, until they reached a temple where they'd arranged to stay the night. Only then did Ekido finally speak. "We are monks," he said. "We are not supposed to go near women, especially not young, attractive ones. It's dangerous. Why did you do that?" Notice the gap. The events on the road took perhaps 10 seconds. Ekido's silence about it lasted an entire day of walking. That gap is the actual subject of this story. Not whether Tanzan broke a rule, whether Ekido could put something down once it was already finished. This is not a story about monastic discipline. It's a story about a mind that took an event lasting 10 seconds and kept running it, unpaid and uninvited, for hours. You've done the same thing with much smaller material. A comment in a meeting that lasted 4 seconds, replayed at 11 that night while the person who said it has already forgotten they said it at all. Count what that day actually cost Ekido. He walked for hours next to a friend, in near silence, composing an argument in his head. He wasn't present for the road, the rain easing off, the temple coming into view. He was present for a scene that had already ended before lunch. And here's the sharper part. Tanzan was not carrying anything. He picked the woman up, set her down, and by the next bend in the road, his attention had moved on to the mud, the rain, whatever was actually happening in front of him. One monk finished the walk, the other one didn't. Not really. His body was on the road. The rest of him was still standing at that puddle, rehearsing an objection. That is the specific cost of holding something after it's over. You are not present for a single thing that happens next. You just think you are. Tanzan's answer when it finally came, "That was short. I set the girl down at the puddle," he said. "Are you still carrying her? That's the entire teaching. Not you shouldn't have judged me. Not relax." A single precise observation. The event ended hours ago. Whatever weight you're still holding, you added yourself, and you're the only one still holding it. This doesn't mean feelings are wrong or that Ekido should have felt nothing. It means there's a difference between a feeling passing through and a feeling you've picked back up and carried on purpose, long after the moment that caused it is gone. You can test this yourself. Something that happened this morning is probably still in your body right now. A tightness, a rehearsed sentence, an imaginary conversation where you finally say the thing you didn't say. Ask one honest question about it. Is this still happening, or did it happen once and I picked it back up? Most of what we carry fails that test. The event is done. We're the ones still walking around with it in our arms. Here is a specific practice, small enough to do tonight. Think back over today and find one moment you are still replaying. A remark, a decision, an interaction that's already finished by every measure except the one running in your head. Say silently the same line Tanzan said, aimed at yourself. "I set this down hours ago. Am I still carrying it?" Then notice honestly where in your body you're still holding it. Jaw, shoulders, stomach. Somewhere specific. You don't have to force it to release. Forcing usually just adds a second layer. Now you're also irritated that you haven't let go yet. All you're doing is checking accurately whether your hands are still full of something the road already left behind. Some nights the answer will be yes, and that's fine too. The point isn't to win this every time. The point is noticing that most of the weight in your arms right now belongs to a version of today that already ended on its own hours ago, without needing your help to keep it going. Near the city of Benares, in a park called Isipatana, the Deer Park, 5 men sat with the Buddha shortly after he had begun teaching. They had been ascetics together before this. Hard men, used to pushing their bodies to extremes in search of an answer. They had just heard his first teaching, days earlier, and something in it had already started to work on them. Now he sat with them again, and instead of another sweeping statement, he asked them a series of small, careful questions. This discourse is known as the Anatta-Lakkhana Sutta, the teaching on the characteristic of not-self. It moves piece by piece through 5 things: the body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Together, Buddhist teaching calls these the 5 aggregates. Everything a person actually is, when you look closely enough to stop using the word self as a shortcut. He starts with the body. Is it permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, they answer. And what is impermanent? Is it a source of ease or of suffering? Suffering. Then the question the whole teaching turns on. Is it reasonable to look at something impermanent and unsatisfying and think this is mine, this is me, this is myself? No, they answer. It would not be reasonable. He repeats the same 3 questions for feeling, then perception, then mental formations, then consciousness. Each time the same answer. Impermanent, unsatisfying, not fit to be called mine, or me, or myself. Here is the problem hiding underneath your own daily language, and it runs deeper than grief or a muddy road. You say my anxiety, my failure, my temper, the same way you'd say my coat, as though these things are fixed possessions, permanently attached to a fixed owner called you. The sutta is pointing at something specific. Everything you just called mine is a process in motion, not an object sitting still. And a moving process makes an unstable place to store your entire identity. Think about the last time you said, I am a failure, instead of, that attempt failed, or I am not creative, instead of nothing came to me this week. One sentence describes weather passing through. The other builds a permanent address and moves in. Here is what it costs to keep doing that, and it's not abstract. Every time you fuse a passing state with a fixed self, you make it your job to defend that self whenever the state shows up again. If you are your temper, then every time you're calm, part of you is quietly waiting for the real you to come back and prove the label right. If you are your grief or your anxiety or the worst thing you ever did, then healing feels like a threat to your identity rather than relief from a temporary condition. Some part of the mind resists getting better because getting better would mean the story it built about who it is was wrong. This is the same mechanism as the mother with the mustard seed and the monk on the muddy road, just moved one level deeper. She thought this loss was uniquely hers. He thought this incident was still happening. And most of us think our passing states are permanent facts about who we are. Same error, 3 different sizes. The instruction that follows the questioning is precise, and it survives in the original language, almost word for word. Netam mama, nesoham asmi, nameso ara. This is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. It's worth being exact about what that is not saying. It is not saying you don't exist. It is not telling you to stop caring about your body, your feelings, your work. It's saying something narrower. None of these moving processes were ever solid enough to be a permanent you in the first place, so stop assigning them that job. Feeling is explicitly on that list. Vedana, feeling, is named directly among the things that are not mine, not me, not myself. Whatever you are feeling tonight by this teaching was never a fixed description of who you are. It was weather, moving through a 5-part process that has been changing since the moment it started. The text says something specific happened to the 5 men right there in that conversation. Their minds became completely clear, free of what the texts call defilement. That part matters because it means this wasn't a nice metaphor to feel calm about for an evening. Something in how they saw themselves actually changed from one conversation on the spot. You are not going to become an arahant tonight from watching a video. I want to be honest about that instead of promising something I can't deliver. But you can use the same question they were asked on a much smaller scale. Think of one sentence you've been using about yourself lately. I'm someone who always ruins things. I'm just not a people person. I'm the failure in this family. Any sentence with I am attached to something that is, if you look closely, actually a temporary state. Ask the 5 men question about it. Is this thing permanent, or does it come and go? If it comes and go, is it something worth building a whole identity around? You don't have to answer with certainty tonight. You don't have to resolve it. Just ask the question honestly, the way it was asked at Isipatana, and notice what happens to the sentence when you actually look at it instead of repeating it. Let's put the 3 back together. A mother believed her loss was an exception to a rule that applies to everyone. Walking to enough doors showed her it wasn't. A monk kept carrying an event that his own body had already put down hours earlier. A single sentence from his friend showed him the gap between the road and his mind. 5 men were asked, piece by piece, whether anything they called myself could actually hold still long enough to deserve that name. Looking closely enough, they found it couldn't. 3 different situations. One mechanism, underneath all of them. Something ends, and a part of the mind keeps running it anyway, as if refusing to notice the ending will somehow undo it. I'm not going to ask you to let go of anything tonight. You already know that instruction doesn't work on command, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. What I'll ask instead is smaller. Somewhere in your body right now, something from today or from a much older day is still being held. Not judged, not fixed, just noticed. See if you can find where it is. Not why it's there, just where. That's the whole practice. Kisā-Gotamī needed a whole city of doors to see it. Ekido needed one sentence from a friend. 5 men needed a teacher who was patient enough to ask 5 careful questions instead of giving them one big answer. You get to decide what happens after you notice. That part was never anyone else's to hand you. The thing you're carrying already ended. Whether you set it down tonight or tomorrow or slowly over months, that's not a test you can fail. It's just still true. Whenever you're ready to look at it, it ended. You're the one still holding the shape of it.